So
God,
how's it going, Alex?
it is going good, mate.
Aye,
Going really good, huh?
yeah, yeah,
Spot on.
excellent. How was the shows?
Uh, I'm satisfied with like everything what like went on with them, but I wanted a little bit more from them. But it's one of them things, and I literally had to call a short. Me last show short just due to like medical reasons and that, which is not really the
Right.
best way ever to like finish competing. But you've got to really put your health first with shit like that.
Aye. What medical reason?
Well, I was getting really bad shin splints for no reason on my
Hmm.
leg. And then me and my coach, we didn't really understand how I was getting them. I was like, we were pulling back expenditure. So when we were
Yeah.
pulling back expenditure, it was like allowing my body to tighten up a little bit more because I'm not
Hmm.
doing as many steps, as much cardio. So we weren't even running any cardio for the last maybe 2 weeks of prep. But then the shin splints on my shin and my knees were just starting to like feel like really brittle and really weak. Uh, And so we got the most recent show. So the show I did on the 26th of August, we did that show and the shin splints weren't too bad, but when I was holding certain poses, it felt like someone was like putting like a knife through my shin. And then
Shit.
just walking and everything else. And how he wanted us to prepare for the next show after that. He wanted us to do like an hour of posing every single day 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes on the night, or like non-stop posing. And for people who are like non-bodybuilders, posing is like harder than cardio sometimes. Holding every single muscle for like 10 seconds at a time when there's 8 different poses in my category and certain poses were
Hmm.
absolutely ramming my shin and my knees. It was just not optimal enough to push for another show when it could be like, well, could be long-term issues if I was to even do that show.
Yeah. Going like a tense position, like areas where it's you're injured,
No,
sort
but
of thing.
yeah, I was on stage on on my last show, like holding poses, like just like biting me lip on being like this
Hmm.
absolutely rammed this.
Oh man. How many you done now then?
In
Overall?
total or just this season.
Overall?
Four.
Four. Kind of. What results?
So in 2021 we got fourth out of the first time competing. Then we got second in Fit X,
Hmm.
which that one is just down there.
Oh,
And
mint.
then it got first in the Viking show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I seen that.
and then in the one just gone, we're thinking top six, but the judging for it's absolutely like it's a shambles. I put on like photos side by side of like the placing, and I don't even know how I didn't come to like in the top four. Though I was in so in bodybuilding when you get called out, it's something called first call outs.
Hmm.
So there's 12 of us on stage. So basically you go in your line of six because you can't get 12 of you on stage for all the judges to do all your poses because well, I mean, if there's 10 of you, if there's 12 of you, there's not enough time to look through all yous. So they put the first six forward and the other six on the side. So I was in this first six. We did all the poses, everything was going good. We got moved to the side. The other six came in, they all did their stuff. And then the judges will basically call out your numbers, who they want to see in front of who. So I got pulled on first call outs, which in any perspective means right, you are good if you're in first call outs because they want to see you up against other people. And basically, when me and my coach Finn heard that, we're like, right, class, let's go up against it's like let's see we're side by side against someone else.
Hmm.
Everything was going good until maybe the third round of posing when I started sweating a lot.
Right.
Um, because the lights get really warm and my posing fitness probably could have been a little bit better. But then one of the judges was like, go nip backstage just to get it for a tanner to fix your tan up because there's usually a tanner backstage. If you go backstage, they'll get like a roller, they'll get some tan on their mitt and just fix you up. Obviously, if your tan's dripping. So I ran backstage and there was literally no one there. It was like
Shit.
so I just picked up this towel and this roller. I didn't know what I'm doing. I paid £80 for my tan and for a tanner to be backstage to do it for us, not for me to do it. So I dabbed it all. Well, I dabbed what I thought was all of it off, tried rolling it off, but then all the other lads came back off stage, and basically I was the first one to go back on and do my posing routine, just
Hmm.
how the numbers went. So I was like, fuck me, I don't even get a break in between taking this tan off and like trying to get my stamina back. So I went straight back on, did my posing routine. Tan looked blotchy, I looked like a zebra. Uh, and so I came off stage, and then the tanner turned up when I came off stage, and I was just like, of course that would have
Think he's
happened.
having a
But
shit or something.
mate, he told us he was like, oh yeah, the van broke down, so we just ended up being late. And then I was just like, oh well, if you've just ended up being late, I mean, I guess that's fine. Uh, so I went back on stage, we did like we posed down, and then the guy who actually came, it was either fourth or fifth. He thought I won the competition.
Right.
So because he messaged me over the professional photos, and I don't even blow my own trumpet, but when you literally see me side by side against everyone, it's
Hmm.
like you are the biggest. I was the biggest junior on stage, and I was the most shredded through like the glutes, the quads.
Hmm.
Uh, so they said who got fourth, fifth, and then the guy who got third, and then second. And then one of the guys looked over to me and he started nodding his head, giving the impression that I won. And then I didn't even place top five. And then I messaged one of the guys after the show because honestly, I came off stage. I don't cry at anything, but I came off stage. I went outside. I had a fucking tear up because it was like it was a show I had in my mind for like 2 years.
Aye.
I last came off stage, and it meant so much was doing that show. And then it was just like, oh, we're not going to tell you why you lost, but you lost. And then I asked one of the guys who he was basically it was basically his competition, and he owns the brand called MBW, who like sponsored the whole event.
Hmm.
And I asked him, long story short, I just said, did I get judged because of my tan rather than my physique? And he was like, yeah. He said, you probably would have came in the top three, but since your tan was running a lot, the judges looked past it, which I think's a bit bullshit to be fair, 'cause it's a bodybuilding competition, not like a beauty pageant.
Aye, literally, yeah, yeah.
Literally,
Ah, it's
I'm not,
mental that. It wasn't
so
your fault either, like if the tanning person wasn't there.
yeah, exactly. So I emailed the organization I competed for. They didn't get
Hmm.
back to us. I wasn't expecting them to, but I would have, I would have came off stage happier knowing that I lost fair and square. It's like in MMA. Imagine if you were to lose just because something generally wasn't even your fault.
Yeah, yeah, I
You'd be,
suppose.
or like maybe but from my perspective, I just lost by like not even a bodybuilding term, more for like a standpoint. The judges were like, "Oh, his tan's not very good." So because in my head,
Doesn't
I was
matter
like,
like
yeah,
what muscles and
exactly.
stuff aren't true. Yeah,
Oh, he's the biggest and most conditioned on stage, but his
yeah, yeah.
tan's shit. So let's just fucking put him last. Like
That's mad. That.
it's it was more frustrating that I thought about this comp for like 2 years and then just to lose for tan.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's one of them, just a turn on the shoulder, really. But Izzy got a second at her show, and then the show she
yeah.
did
I seen
last
that.
and the show she did last Saturday as well, she also got second. So with trophy cabinet at the minute, it's looking quite nice, looking good.
Yeah, and see, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. What's your when's your next show then?
Well, this is it's something that well, I'm definitely thinking over. It won't be next year. It'll definitely be either 2025 or 2026.
Hmm.
But what route I take is like undecided at the minute. So whether I
Yeah,
stay natural for another season or go enhanced and then go to compete in 25 again in an enhanced side of it instead,
right.
because it depended on the mindset, and I'm gonna allow myself to have like another like 5 or 6 weeks just to get me hormones back to normal. But I don't really feel like I need to prove to anyone else that I can do it naturally anymore. Because
Yeah,
I showed people what kind of condition I can get myself in whilst being natural and not taking literally anything. So if I was to compete in 2025 as a natural, would it be a waste of time or it depends. I'm always going to be going enhanced at some point. It was just undecided when. So it's just thinking with not my coach, but thinking with like family and like
Hmm.
friends and whatnot, what like the correct path is. Because I'm not just doing bodybuilding just to say I've done it. I'm wanting to do it for like the full extent. I'm not here to just do like be one of these competitors who was like, yeah, I'll compete every couple of so years, and I don't place as high. Like I want to like compete and like
Like,
make something of myself.
mm, yeah, yeah,
You're not here to take part, you're here to take over.
Well, exactly. That's what
yeah. Mm,
exactly. And I never judge anyone whoever takes like gear or steroids at all. Everyone's got to take something to a certain level in certain sports, whether that's fucking golf, basketball, even MMA sometimes. Because I know MMA fighters do take it as well, even
yeah,
boxers. I never judge anyone for it. I'm always judge people when they say they're not on it when they are.
yeah, definitely. And uh, I respect it if people know know what they're doing, know how to do it, know about the risks involved and stuff, and they're honest about it. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. Yeah, I know so many people who are on it who you'd have no idea who. It's like in
Right?
GD, I could literally tell you so many people who are on not like the maddest amount of gear ever, but people who are running certain bits in JD, and you'd be like, they're on gear. Yeah, like people have no idea. Like the kind of supplements that I'm talking about is maybe 5% of the work. Just because someone
Mm,
may take like a cycle of anabolics does not necessarily mean they're going to turn into Mr. Olympia. It's
yeah.
maybe a 5% difference compared to taking creatine. It's just another supplement to help you get better. But if you're not going to have all the other building blocks, then it's no point taking it. You're going to look like an average Joe.
Suppose there is still risks involved though, with like hormones and
100%,
shit
yeah.
like that. But I mean, if you understand all that and know how to minimize the risks, do you know what I mean? And you're honest, like it's each their own, isn't it? It's you've got to
Yeah, well,
respect
I mean, I've spoke to family about it. Like, I even spoke to my mom about it, and she was always like, "I'm fully supportive of you doing it. It just scares us." And I understand why it scares people because of like the bad side effects you always hear. But
it. Mm,
with anything in bodybuilding, I was saying this to someone else. You only ever really hear about the bad, what comes from it. You
Mm.
never really hear about the discipline that you got to put into it. You never
oh yeah,
really
of course.
hear about like the mindset you really got to put in it. How it doesn't like it might be like a gym based sport, but I can like tell you that how much bodybuilding has helped with my own business. Not even the fact that I'm like an online coach and a PT, but like with my own mindset and life in general. Like it doesn't just help you in the gym at all, but you only ever hear the bad stuff that comes from it, which is a shame. And you only ever just hear, oh, bodybuilding. Oh, yeah, it's just big juiced up meatheads getting angry at each other, lifting weights in it. But it's not.
Mm.
It's not necessarily that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's transferable skills, isn't it? It's like the mental fortitude that you could get from like lifting weights and pushing yourself. You could apply that to like anything that you do. It
Mm.
doesn't have to be physical, it can be mental. We
It's
were talking
also
about
the
this with
diet,
Jack last time.
patience. I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of patience involved in bodybuilding from the looks of it.
Mm.
I was saying this to someone. Bodybuilding it's such the actual sport itself. It's such a long preparation for a 20
Mm.
minute result.
Mm.
Right.
You can be on prep for 5 months and be on stage for 20 minutes, and then that's your prep done. Now that's a difference compared to, let's just say, football, where you're on the pitch nearly for 4 or 5 times a week, and then you're playing every single week. With bodybuilding, it's each day as it comes.
Yeah. And there's also like the off season shit as well. They've got to
Yeah,
do right.
so obviously, like the prep to the off season is always different, but it's
Mm.
very the off season is just as important as the prep, and in certain cases it can be harder because not a lot of people can understand the difference between pushing food high and eating when you're not hungry to eating when you are hungry and trying to find food substitutes to keep volume up, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a very similar phase, but it's very different in its own sense.
How
It's
important do
also
you think it
gaining
is?
muscle without gaining fat or too much fat.
You're always going to gain a certain amount of fat
Yeah,
when it
yeah.
comes to the off season, and I think anyone who thinks that there's a thing called, but this is my opinion, probably people who watch this might think it's like quite controversial, but I don't even think there's anything called like a clean bulk. If you can imagine someone who's going to have 4,000 calories or 4,500 calories clean, the calorie dense foods were clean. Imagine trying to eat 4,500 calories worth of, let's just say, because in any sort of off season you've got to push carbs. So 4,500 calories worth of rice, like lean potato, not chips,
Yeah, yeah.
like lean potato, like white rice, oats being quite like a calorie dense food when like people do struggle to like digest that. Like I never think that there's any sort of like lean way, and you can technically say that certain foods aren't lean, but in my certain opinion, calories in and calories out.
Mm. I still think there's better ways to do it than say if you get 4,500 calories than just going to Mackey's and getting like three Mackey's.
Depends on your
Do you know what I
macro
mean?
split. Yeah. And I think it's person dependent though. Because
Mm.
if you're gonna say to a bodybuilder, go get 4,500 calories, whatever you can, they could probably do it on a Mackey's one because they're going to be quite active when they're doing it anyways. But let's just say it's to an
Right.
average lifestyle client who's going to come to you and they're wanting to put on weight. Now, if a client was telling me, "Oh, Alex, I've had about 4,500 calories and everything's just been Mackey's," then this is like someone who might have like a desk job, who aren't very active.
Yeah.
It might be on like a 4-day split. It's not going to be like most optimal to them, and it's not really going to have like a good relationship with food because they'll just what's the word? Like they'll just take like for granted like a McDonald's when some people like a McDonald's can be like a reward after a hard week.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
How important do you think it is to enjoy your food, like to be satisfied with food, like during prep?
During prep, I think food through prep is even in both. Like I'd say this prep I enjoyed my food a lot more because I started finding different ways to keep myself satiated, and obviously my protein was relatively high, but for someone like myself, like I was heavier than I was probably the heaviest on stage on that day as well, and I was like 85 kilo on stage, and I have about 260 gram of protein. But even 260 gram of protein, like on like training days, yes, it might be like satiating, but it wasn't to me. So I used to find like good food volume in certain kinds of veg. I like I didn't even like mushrooms before prep. I fucking loved mushrooms in prep. I honestly hated mushrooms, and then I looked at me and Izzy we're in Lidl. I looked at the back of this pack of mushrooms. I was like, there kind of be 18 calories in all this one box. And then I took it home, I made them up, made them with some fry, like get some garlic on there. And honestly, like just finding food volume, I actually didn't end up being that hungry on prep. Obviously, you want to
Mm.
eat all like the you want to have like loads of carbs and what, but like physically hungry, not really. It was more just like I was volumizing the food good enough, like lettuce, green beans, mushrooms, whatever carbs I was getting them more in volume, stuff like that, like maybe cauliflower rice as well, because that's quite
Mm.
low in calories.
Yeah, yeah.
But it is important to have a good relationship with food, even in both phases, because I know so many people who will bulk and they'll just say, "Oh, I don't care for taste, I'll just eat." If you can do that, fair enough, but like if you don't like the taste of something, you're not going to digest it. It's like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember last off season, I used to force myself to have this like Lidl used to do this massive pack of chicken tikka, and it was shit chicken tikka. It was absolutely terrible, and I was just like, oh well, there's like 90 grams of protein in it, so I'll just have it. I'll put it in a bunch of wraps and I'll eat it. I remember just like hoiking them up, and I was just like, they taste fucking vile. Them like still like stuff like that, man. It's horrible.
I gotta be done though, innit?
It did, but I wasn't going to pick it up. Like,
So what did your diet look like, apart from all that?
what on prep?
Well, both phases.
Well, on prep, so it would differ between training days and non-training days because you can get away with getting less food on training days, on like non-training days. So it was typically 4 to 5 meals on like training days, being like so my carbs, like whenever I would tell people what my carbs were at, they were like, bloody hell, that's still quite a lot of food. So I think my carbs on my training days were about 325
Right.
grams, which are certain people's like that's still a lot of food, but in my head I'm like that's like I could still eat a lot more than only
Yeah, yeah.
325. So it would go off between like meal one, having like turkey rashers, some egg whites, some bagel thins, some whole eggs, just some like good low volume stuff. I end up used to like make like 2 plates worth of food in like my first meal because you can get so many calories worth out of like egg whites, which was just like great at the time. Um, what else? There was the meal two. Sometimes it was mostly like potatoes and that. Um, and then a certain supplement called like I don't know if some of you know like cream of rice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I used to bring it into work, and then people used to be like, "What's that?" I used to. It was always like a struggle to explain to people what cream of rice was.
It's
But
literally in the name.
yeah, well, the way I used to tell people, the way we used to be like cream rice. I used to just be like, it's just like flavored oats, just flavored oats.
Yeah.
Um, but it was more annoying on trying to get like food in before the end of the day. So obviously, when I was working in like JD and doing the closes and that, I didn't really want to be eating crazy late, just for like food digestion and the certain time between when my last meal was and when I'm waking up.
Hmm.
Because if you're gonna have your last meal, let's just say midnight, and you're gonna wake up at 8, there's like an 8 hour like difference between digesting that food and whether you're going to be going to the toilet, going for a wee, going for another two, and actually digesting that food. So I wanted to give my body as much time as possible between going to sleep and waking up. But me last off season, it was so how I would structure it, and it'll still how I'll structure it now it'll be like 70-30, 70% clean, eat and then 30% just whatever I can get on top because
Mm.
in the golden phase you want digestion to be as good as possible, but also it can get quite expensive
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
in any sort of phase. To be fair, literally, me and Izzy used to go through like 5 bags of lettuce a day on prep. This is like 22 calories in a bag of lettuce. So we were just like, right, bash, there we go, more volume. But it was getting to a problem where visually, when I was probably at about 3, like, I don't even know what my body fat was, but like when my body fat was really, really low, when the food volume is so high, you're going to hold on to more water. So your body has to work a little bit harder still to digest the food. Yes, the food might not be like as calorie dense, but it's still going to make you a little bit more watery. So
Hmm.
when me and my coach were looking at photos, so we were like checking in nearly every single day. You could tell on photos that my midsection wasn't looking terrible by any means, but you could see it was looking a little bit watery. So by pulling volume away, and it's not like I was like substituting like loads of calories. It was only like a 20 calorie difference. But from taking away like lettuce and maybe some different food volumes from other meals, you could see like the actual core tightening up because there's not that
Mm.
much volume going through the meals.
That's so interesting, I find. Even though it's like it's not that much many calories, you
Like
can
20
visually see
calories.
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like 20 calories, but when you're on such a low body fat, it's like the volume's causing more water between obviously the muscles. So
Mm.
when we pull the volume away, not like I was getting like way hungrier. It was more just like, right, we'll just pull some lettuce away from the meals, uh, push and have a little bit more food, maybe through rice because it's a little bit denser.
Hmm.
Um, and then we'll see what the look looks like. And I ended up tightening up a lot more because the volume wasn't as high. And stuff like lettuce, it's basically all just water, anyways. So yes, I might have thought I was drinking 10 liters a day, like actual fluids, but God knows how much fluids I was actually having through like
Getting
stuff
through
like that.
food and stuff. Yeah, yeah, of
Yeah.
course. I will have to stop this meeting. I'm gonna restart it. So it will be 2 seconds. Just bear with us.
All right.
Oops. Right. Right. Oh, where were we? Diet.
Aye, diet. Uh,
Choice.
so like now with like after prep, it's like a rough bit now after prep from being like so like induced in like being in like the constant mindset of losing weight to now gaining weight. It's a it's a crap switch when I've technically been cutting since November when I started like a pre-prep diet around then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I've been enjoying food a lot more, like coming out of prep. It's more just like the physical like look that I'm not really happy with, but it's more just to switch the mindset from constantly losing weight to right, let's get myself like healthy and into a gaining phase now.
Hmm. See, Jack was saying something like kind of the opposite. He was saying that he's it was just takeaways and stuff he was on about, but he was saying like uh, it's not satisfying enough when he's having like cake and takeaways and stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
Do you feel that?
I think it is satisfying enough, but it's more of the fact of where does it end? So I could have,
Yeah, yeah.
I could honestly like eat all the shit stuff, but I know it's not going to be worth it because I'm going to put on a crazy amount of weight and then I'm going to put myself in a worse position. And if I want to set a good example for my own clients, then why would I want myself doing something that I wouldn't be happy with them doing? Now, it's all good, like rewarding yourself after being so regimented for nearly a
Hmm.
year. That's fine. Enjoying food, yeah, that's fine. I wouldn't have said there's a single bit of food that I haven't enjoyed, like post prep. Um, I've had like pizzas, where like honestly, I'll say I could eat so much more, but I'm not. And when it comes to the takeaway standpoint, there's honestly a lot nicer foods than just takeaways sometimes. Like yesterday, like I had the mindset yesterday that I really fancied a Domino's, but I knew in myself I didn't need to have it, and Domino's wasn't going anywhere. I didn't need to have it yesterday. So what I just made instead, I looked at it in my calories. I structured in something for myself to make, and I ended up making beef Mexican enchiladas, which I didn't. It was an easier thing and better for calories and better on protein.
Mm.
Mm.
So it doesn't necessarily need to be takeaways. Enjoying food's not just takeaway.
Oh yeah, of
It,
course. Yeah, yeah.
so like I made myself like spaghetti bolognese, which to some people is just like, oh yeah, it's just spaghetti bolognese. But to me it's like I haven't
I
had
love a good
spaghetti.
spaghetti bolognese. Like,
I haven't had spaghetti bolognese in 5 months.
mm.
That hits different. Like I have my off-plan days where I just don't track. It's like me and Izzy tomorrow. We're going to Newcastle tomorrow to enjoy just food all day. I might get some food later on because I'm allowed to enjoy food. You're allowed to enjoy food. It's just basically setting a good example to, especially when it's my profession, anyways. As like a coach, I don't want like
Yeah,
if my client's telling me, oh, like 2 weeks after the show, I haven't been on plan at all. I've just been eating crap every single day. If a client was to come around and tell me that, I'd be like, well, you took the piss there a little bit because yes, enjoy food, just don't be an knobbed about it because you're literally going to put yourself in a worse position. Just like I
mm.
did when I first competed, I put 20 kilo on in a month. Not good weight though. It was bad weight, and it was more of the sense of I didn't really move after I last, pardon me, after I last competed. I just ate, sat, did nothing, didn't do any cardio, barely really even trained at all. But now I do 20 minutes daily cardio, just light cardio on the bike. I'm actually excited to train now. My steps daily are above 15,000 steps a day. So it's not like I'm being lazy. I'm enjoying food, but still staying active, which obviously you can't out train a shit diet, obviously. But whenever you do have those off plan days, just make sure you're just not being a complete lazy shit and just actually be a little bit active as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's still a learning process at the minute because I did check-in photos this morning, and not a lot of bodybuilders like speak about it post show, but I'm not happy at all on how the look is. When I think of myself 2 weeks ago, I was very low body fat percentage, but it's just something you got to work on in yourself, to be fair. But I listened to a little bit of the podcast where Jack was like speaking about, but you don't always need to just go mad on takeaways. You can just be a little bit more structured and have the days where you are going to have that stuff, but still be accountable for it. Maybe the next
Yeah,
day
yeah.
and work like a
Keep it
little
in
bit hard.
moderation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like you've got a healthy like relationship with food. You don't take it too seriously.
That's what I was like on prep. Like, just don't like in my head. Like, when I don't know. Like, if you're weighing some food out, let's say you're weighing a like a bag of rice out and you're only supposed to have 200 gram. Now, in a normal packet of rice, there's like 250 grams. Honestly, I couldn't have cared. I just threw the other 50 gram of rice in the bin. But some other people would be like, it's only 50 grams of rice. I'll just like get it in. Like, I just have the mindset of like food's never going anywhere. It just I didn't need to have a if I was to have a Domino's yesterday, I probably would have felt a bit shit for it today because I would have just been like,
Yeah,
it wasn't going to go anywhere. And I'd rather enjoy the food than smash it all in just because my hunger hormones are going crazy. Because they are. Like, I had them enchiladas yesterday and I was still hungry after it, yes. But food's not going to go anywhere. And post prep, anyways, your hunger hormones are going to be higher, anyways, because you're gaining weight, you're going to be in a surplus, and obviously you can't eat anything under the sun. But I'd rather food's never going to go anywhere. So if just to be patient with it.
yeah. I think it helps a lot massively, like if you understand it as well, understand the hormones. So understand like the difference between hunger and just like wanting food sort of thing.
Yeah. Like,
And even feeling your body, like understanding what's actually going on
yeah,
and
well,
knowing what you've had and what you need.
after Izzy competed over the weekend, we enjoyed say whatever food we had on Saturday, and then on Sunday we had just a full day of just like not even going mad, just enjoying food. And I ended up being sick on the Sunday night. And then even the following Monday, I thought I got food poisoning because my back end was disgraceful, my front end was disgraceful, but it was more just my body not understanding the kind of foods I was putting in. So my body was not really used to having. So what I had was we went to you probably know like Love Lilies.
I've
You've
heard of
ever
it.
heard of it? Yeah, so it's like
I've heard of it.
went for like pancakes and some
Mm.
brunch there as well, and it was unbelievable. And I absolutely smashed it, and I was still hungry. Well, I wasn't still hungry after. I was like satisfied, but then my body just really wasn't used to the kind of ingredients and the kind of like nutrients I was putting into it, and my body was just probably like, Jesus, but like what we're doing. So that's probably why I just didn't digest well.
Mm.
Now I try digestion supplements as well, just to like really aid good digestion. Because the thing I was always saying to Izzy is like when you come off stage, make sure you hydrate straight away before you go to any sort of food. Because if you're not going to hydrate and if you can't really digest food very well, you're honestly not going to enjoy the crap food. Because you've been thinking about it for so long, and I think like you have spoken about it before. The thought of food is better than the actual when you're doing it.
Yeah.
That was the flip side with me because I knew what I needed to do to enjoy the food, and if I wasn't to really make sure I had good digestion, then I know I wouldn't have enjoyed the food because I would have spent like 20, 30 quid to get this amount of food, and after two bites, not even being able to digest it. One, you've wasted your money. And then two, you're not even going to enjoy the food because you're just thinking, oh, that's fucking horrible. That like I don't want to eat that. But for someone like myself, I made sure my digestion's good in both aspects. So I actually enjoy the food. So it's why my relationship with food's class.
Yeah, that's good.
I think the issue is with some people, they feel like they want to make sure that no stones are unturned, and they feel like if they're kind of avoiding certain things and they're not like going 100%, and like, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Like not like if they're not getting all these little bits of food, then they're not feeling fully satisfied.
Yeah.
That's what I mean though. Like food's not going anywhere. Honestly, right? So me and Izzy made this scram box and bag. That there is just full of ket. That is just full of ket. And honestly, we have it in just moderation. If we really wanted to be stupid, we could have went ham on that box, and it would probably
Full of what?
just ket, just mate, like honestly, like just it's
Ket.
just like yeah, we're not legitimate ket. But like just like chocolate and just like nice little like snacks. It's more just like a snack bag. She's like this one's just full of like crisps and biscuits that she wanted to get. But it's more just for like whenever we fancy having like childies in the flat. But for like normal people, they'd be like, "Oh, I've got to eat that all now. Oh, I've got to have that all now." Like with me, I can look at that and be like, "It'll be nice when I have it," but
You don't need it now.
Yeah, like I've been enjoying food, which is like good for calories, which I don't really need to go crazy on that. Like I've been loving the food I've been eating at the minute.
So
Do you know when you're saying when you after your first show and like the week after you put the weight back on but not in the right way?
Yeah.
Do you feel like that part was important so you can learn how to do it the right way and have like a better relationship
Yeah.
after your next shows?
Yeah, I said to Izzy, I was like, Izzy, if you just want to go crazy after your shows, do it. You'll feel like crap because of it, but you'll learn not that you want to do it, like you don't want to do it again. Because when I first competed, like it was in within the first month, I put 20 kilo on, and that's when like I posted those photos of what I looked like when I worked in Domino's. I looked like a space raider. I was like, I just looked really fat because I was eating all the food, but I wasn't being active. It was just more like just binging. I wasn't listening to my
Yeah, yeah.
coach. I honestly, I didn't care about my coach's opinion. He would messages just being like, "Oh, how's things going?" I would blank him, which is
Ah,
not a
shit.
good relationship with your coach. Now,
Nah.
like my partner's with Finn at the minute. I'm keeping Finn for another month just to see how he would his interpretation on like going from prep to off season. And I'm listening to everything he's telling us because I'm paying for it. Just like when people pay for coaches off me, if they're not going to listen to me, then they're the mugs going to keep paying me. If I'm not going to listen to Finn, then I'm just putting money into his pocket for no reason,
right.
really.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. What were you gonna say, Zayad?
I just said
I cut you
charity.
off there. Charity.
No,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
fine.
it would just be
It's just say
charity.
charity. Yeah.
He'd be
Mm.
like, "Oh well, I'm getting paid now, and I don't even need a helping because he doesn't want my help."
Hmm.
Nah.
I think you've definitely got like a mature attitude with it all because it's like you could be kind of naive and think like, oh, I'm just gonna try and just go balls to the wall and just only eat chicken and rice all year round and just. But you kind of understand that that's not like there's no longevity in that. You're not going to be happy.
Oh,
You need to
it's
enjoy what
exactly.
you're
I
doing.
think that's the toxic mindset of it. I
Aye.
feel like if people want to, it's in a bodybuilding prep. It's not healthy. You can't keep or maintain that look.
Mm.
I think that's why I messed up. But I didn't mess up. Maybe my body was just clamoring for some, what's the word, like for rest. Because my first show was the 15th of July. My second show was the 5th of August. And my last show was the 26th of August. So that's like a 6 or 7 week period of digging for more condition. Because it's not like at my first show, it wasn't like I wasn't even in condition. I still had my glutes were still striated, my hamstrings are still striated, and my quads were. I was basically like 90% for them shows. And then it was just about getting the last 10% for the other shows. And I think that's just with doing that has made my body basically really weak and started with those shin splints. So it's not it's not a maintainable outlook, and you can't maintain your physique like that unless you are enhanced.
Mm.
Enhanced athletes can stay relatively lean through a gaining phase. I'm not saying you can't if you're natural, but you need to put on body fat. And I
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
myself, still rough. It's still rough to actually do, but you do need to put on body fat, not even just to get healthy. You've got to get your hormones back together. You've got to fix your sex drive because your sex drive's gone, and like that plays a massive part, anyways. Because then your overall hormones towards like life, work, it's just not really
Yeah,
going to
like
be there.
testosterone.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm. Yeah.
Because as an advanced athlete, you can just really, if your testosterone is low on prep, you can just take something to just like rise it. If my testosterone's low, I've just got to really deal with it.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
something I was thinking about before. When you were saying like you could achieve the same sort of results by eating like Matty D's and just like focusing on calories and not the quality of the food and things like that and focusing on macros. Like to me, the first thing I think of there is like, well, all the artificial like fillers and like seed oils and the fact that it's all fried and shit, that's gonna like crash your tests and shit like that, isn't it?
Yeah. It's still doable, but you're probably going to feel a little bit more crappier for you. You're probably going to sweat a lot more in your
Mm.
sessions just due to like all like the oils everything's made in. But it's not like something what's not doable. It is doable. It's just not the most optimal of things ever. In
Mm.
my off season, I was at the end of my off season. I remember not every single day, but I'd say 5 out of 7 days, I was getting 2 to 3 crispy chicken wraps from Mackey's every single day just to hit calories. I used to go on my breaks at work and nip over to Mackey's just to get those crispy chicken wraps just for calories. And you don't feel the best. This is why in an off season you may be eating more food, and yes, that might sound all good in a sense, but it's you kind of just do it just because you need to gain weight. In
Mm.
a bodybuilding standpoint, anyways, like I wasn't saying I wasn't enjoying the food, but it was more of the fact of right, I need to get my calories in. It's 8 o'clock at night. I can't get 2,000 calories in lean. So it's
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of like it's like an ultimatum. I have to do it, or I lose weight.
yeah. Mm. So in training, in terms of training, how different is it from off season to when you're in your prep? Obviously, there's going to be a lot more cardio involved in the prep, but does the actual like apart from that, does the training change much?
You shouldn't need to.
No.
You can so obviously at the beginning of your prep, your food's still going to be relatively high. Not the same as it was in your off season, but it's still going to be like high. But your training shouldn't need to change. Like you shouldn't go from like a lot of people ask the question of, oh, when you're in prep, should you do more volume or should you do low volume and high intensity?
Hmm.
Doesn't matter. You should only really change training dependent on how high the fatigue is. So for someone like myself, my training had a lot of intensifiers in it. So like drop sets, rest pause
Yeah, yeah,
sets. Um, but when fatigue was gradually building and building and building, and I was getting more knackered through prep, we pulled away intensifiers and just put straight sets in there because I can put more energy towards straight normal two working sets rather than a drop set where I'm gonna fail on overall fatigue rather than intensity. Um, Obviously, like pumps aren't going to be as good in prep because your carbs are going to get lowered.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, Energy's not really going to like massively be there compared to when it is on like an off season. But your training in an actual sense shouldn't need to get like change or worse. I mean, I was still getting strong into my prep. We took out like compound movements because a number one thing a compound movement's going to fall straight away out of any prep or in any sort of deficit because a compound movement is going to take the most amount of energy, the most amount of expenditure. Find me someone who can do a heavy working set on deadlifts and then go straight into their back off set 1 minute later. That you're gonna be pagged through them sets, and that's why deadlifts got took out.
Focusing on hypertrophy.
yeah.
Yeah, I was still doing low volume through some sets, so heavyweight low volume. Not that it's not optimal; it was still optimal for the goal that I wanted. But we took out deadlifts, we took out barbell squats, and we just substituted them for something similar. So instead of barbell squats, we went to Smith machine squats.
Mm.
Instead of barbell deadlifts, we went to barbell RDLs to focus more on like me hamstrings and glutes and me
Yeah, yeah,
posterior. And I was still honestly progressing them. But when it was getting into the latter stages of prep, we started changing the rep ranges around because it was just going to cause probably injury if we were to stick to the low volume stuff. So a lot of the exercises still had like low volume sets, but the ones what like could have caused injury, we kept at like maybe a hypertrophy level 8 to
mm.
12 reps, like something like that.
Mm.
But the difference if it's an off season, I mean, you're going to have the most amount of energy. Weight moves weight, so regardless when you're heavier, you can pull more. Even if that weight is fat, you're going to pull more anyways. And you're just going to have a lot more energy through your sessions because you're going to be more fueled up, regardless.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense. So, in terms of the exercises, because obviously it's like it's just a aesthetic. It's the aesthetic look. So, like, do you have to ever focus on certain areas or change it up? Say, like, you do shoulder press for a while, then your front delt's not getting enough, or your back delt's not getting enough. Do you ever like change the training to
Like
focus on specific areas
It would
as you
depend
go? I
if I,
mean,
yeah, it would depend if I enjoyed the exercise or not. Like honestly, if there was getting to a certain point where I just wasn't enjoying an exercise anymore, I think there's a lot of mind and muscle connection like structured into that as well. I feel like if you're not enjoying an exercise, then you're not going to feel the most amount of pump through it.
mhm.
I at the minute I'm
100%.
yeah, like I'm focusing more on like pin loaded equipment at the beginning now of like my off season now, because it's going to be the most optimal to limit the amount of injury. Because if I was to jump straight now to dumbbells, which is quite a rigid movement where like the dumbbell can like move whenever, compared to if I'm just on a pin loaded press where it's from A to B,
Yeah, yeah.
that pin machine's not going to move. It's just going to be one static motion, forward and backwards, compared to a dumbbell press where it could go in front of you, behind you. You could mess up when you lift up. But depending on like certain areas, I'll choose like certain areas what have weak points and train them, but not like I'll like limit areas what aren't good. Like areas like myself, like my arms could be a lot bigger than what they are, so I'll focus more on arm training. My chest is one of my strong points, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to stop training chest.
Hmm.
Maybe I just don't need to have as much emphasis on my chest than I do maybe on my front delts or side delts. It would just depend on the goal and time frame I have for it, to be fair.
I was talking
Yeah, it
to
makes sense.
Kyle. I was talking to Kyle the other day about he apparently he does back and tries in the same day. And I was thinking that's actually probably quite a good idea because it's like you're not going to tax your back by training tries, and you're not going to do anything like you're not going to tax you like the other way around, basically. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Vice
yeah.
versa. So
Well, on certain clients who have like maybe like undeniably like weaker body parts, I'll have some clients on like certain active rest state and mix two muscle groups, which are complete difference. So like I have some clients who do an arm and quad day because I have some clients who have quite weak quads and quite weak arms. Now, arms can be taken in as an active rest because you can isolate your arms within two exercises and really just get a pump on, to be
Yeah,
fair. You could do one set of arms and already get a really good pump on. Similar to your quads, if you just went on the leg extension, put maybe 40% of your max on, do a 30 repper, your quads are going to be pumped regardless. So like I agree with certain stuff like that, like you're not always doing like the bro split before. It's just weak points of what it's whatever works for like the person dependent.
yeah, exactly. If you're
what your
hitting the
goal is
muscle,
as
you're hitting the
well.
muscle.
Yeah.
As long as you're getting
Depends on
enough rest in between.
Yeah,
depends
exactly.
on what you're training for as well. Like what Neil's doing at
Mm.
the minute, more explosive
Yeah,
movements
yeah,
and
yeah,
things like that. Because you're training for MMA, it's like just depends what your goal is, doesn't it?
Yeah.
yeah. That's it. So, what got you into bodybuilding?
That's what
Going
I wanted to
right back
ask.
to the start, young Alex, little young Alex as a boy,
Young Rob
little
Ross.
Rob Ross.
Honestly, like I tried to do lots of different sports when I was younger. I tried
Mhm.
boxing, I tried
Right.
football, um, I tried basketball, and I was always just pushed aside for being this guy who, well, or this young lad who was just like, oh, he tries, but he doesn't really get there. And it was a similar with like any sort of like exams I did when it was like English maths. I was always known as someone who was a bit like I tried my best, but it wasn't really there. And then I kind of just got into this mindset of right, well, I try, but I never really get myself anywhere. And then I started training in the gym. I remember it was JD Gym Sunderland. I got this free membership when I was in college doing the games course.
Mhm.
Now training never really massively interested us, but I got this 3 month pass. I was like, you know what, I'll go give it a try. I had the mindset of, oh well, if I get a bit bigger, I might grow a little bit of confidence. Who knows? But I didn't really know what I was doing, so I went to the gym, started training, thinking what I was doing, and then I seen this guy one day, and he used to volunteer at my mum's charity shop, who she was a manager of, and he was called David. And he did bodybuilding in the past, never competed, but he had like a passion for it. He was a much older bloke. He was like now he's in his 40s or 50s. And I went over there. I was like, "Oh, like you volunteered in my mum's shop, didn't you?" And he was like massive man. He had this like massive tight blooming thermal t-shirt on,
Mhm.
and he was like, oh, hi me, and he was like, oh, do you want to train?" Like, I was like, "Oh yeah, I mean, if you wouldn't mind, you have like Facebook or Instagram." He was like, yeah, I'll give you a message on it. And he was like, just letting you know, it's no bullshit training. It's like proper training what we're doing. Like, so make sure you just here at this time. We'll train at this time. I train with my last like maybe a Thursday. So all those other days come in and we'll train. I was like, all right. And it was a kind of training I never knew. I never experienced it before, like proper bodybuilding, intensifying training. Remember the first leg day I did with him, I whited in the toilets, and then I came straight back down and did my second class. Now, anyone who would do like a session like that anyone who would do a session like that would be like, "Wow, this isn't for me." But like for me, I was like this is unbelievable. And obviously at the time I was very young. I think I was only like 16, 17.
Right.
And I was tracking my food back then as well, but like I didn't have a job, so my pre-workout used to be a packet of custard creams right before training, that would like fuel us for. That's probably what came out in the toilet. To be fair, thinking of it. But we started like training like all the time, and then I started getting me natty gains, and then I started like he introduced us to like what bodybuilding actually is, um, and I never looked at it being like, oh, that's disgusting, or what they have to wear those little trunks. I looked at it being like, that looks absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's something I'd like to do at some point. And
It's
then
funny how things just click, isn't it? Like you tried boxing, you tried these things, but it never clicked. Like it's interesting how some things are just click, like you just enjoy it.
I seen a really tan man in a G string, and that was my sport. But like, I was just like, I knew the steroid side of it, but I didn't really care about it at all. I just wanted to train, and then I
Mhm.
got more into like I got more into about the local people who did bodybuilding. Found out about Amph Bales, who was like he's still today like one of my favorite bodybuilding motivations.
Mm.
I ended up doing his deadlift competition, which I got a medal for as well, which was a really cool like deadlift competition. Um, and then I set me goals for wanting to compete in certain like years, but I never like in bodybuilding, you never really know when you're ready. You can always
Mhm.
tell yourself that you're not big enough. Like any bodybuilder is never going to be like, right, I'm ready to prep. Every bodybuilder is going to be like, but I want to get this bigger before I do that. I just took it to myself to be like, right, I'm going to prep when I've got a job, financially covered, I can buy my own food, I can pay for a coach, and then I'll do it. And when I started obviously doing the bodybuilding, it's kind of where I transitioned from the previous course at college I was on into doing PT. Uh, so that's what I mean when I'm saying bodybuilding didn't just like help me in the gym, it's helped us find my
Yeah,
why. And it's good to be able to find like a job what I do, which I don't really feel like it's a job.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's more of like a hobby.
Yeah, literally,
You
and you
love
get
it.
paid for it,
Yeah,
is the
yeah,
mad
yeah.
thing.
That's it.
Like, I think you can be
Love what
quite
you do.
privileged enough. Yeah, I feel like you can be quite privileged enough, and especially in these days, to see it.
Aye, definitely.
Where
Yeah.
do you plan on taking it then? Like how do you plan on like expanding that and building on that like kind of passion?
Well, definitely to get on a bigger stage and to compete. Like I said, I've proved myself enough for competing for 2 seasons in a row as a fairly decent natural, and the amount of tissue I put on in a 1.5 year off season from when I last competed to now. Um, and prep's not only just helped us progress in my physique and my own mentality, it's also helped us through business because everyone likes a journey. I feel like I would get messages of people being like, "Oh, you haven't really posted what you're weighing at the minute. What are you weighing at the minute?" And I didn't even really know that people really cared about that kind of
Mm.
stuff. I used to repost it whenever. But everyone likes a journey. It's helped with business. Um, so like the long term aspect of it is to, from a business standpoint, would be to keep growing me online, and to eventually go fully online so I can take the full business just to online coaching and not really doing any one to one. But from a competing standpoint, would to be compete on a bigger stage for bigger titles and to at some point push for maybe a pro card. But there's no point trying to set my mindset on putting all that pressure on myself. It's more just still about enjoying the process
Yeah,
and not like, yes, there's always I want to do the bigger competitions, but remembering it's a sport and the person who enjoys walking is always going to prefer the guy over the destination, like prefer someone over the destination. I
yeah,
prefer
yeah,
walking and sprinting.
Not really.
yeah, yeah. I think it goes back to what I was saying before. Like it's a lot of patience, I feel. I think that's a good thing
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
no one gets results overnight. Like like in this off season now, you're not having your next show you said till like 2025. Is that
Yeah,
what it
yeah.
is? So like that's a long time. But at the same time, like you're not just gonna not do anything those 2 years.
Well, I'm gonna put on
You're gonna
like
be
the most,
constantly pushing. Yeah,
like
exactly.
the amount of tissue I'll hopefully have on by 2025 will be like hopefully mad amounts. So then when me and Izzy go back to compete in 2025, it's gonna be like totally because you don't want to. People asked us, "Oh, you're not going to go compete again next year?" If I was to do it again next year, then I'm not going to put on mad amount of tissue crazy because I'd have to start prep again in April and only end up having like a 6 month off season to just prep again, which in the grind aspect, I might just end up looking similar. Which in comparison to having a good 1.5 year off season, a longer off season, you're going to put a lot more tissue on. You have to put on
Yeah, yeah.
weight, regardless if that is fat. A lot of it's going to be glycogen and also water, but you are going to put on tissue when you are heavier. And anyone who tries to do a bulk when they're crazy, crazy like lean, you're not going to put on as much tissue, even if you're enhanced as well. You have to put body fat on. But the goal is to try be heavier than I was in my last off season, or be more conditioned than I was at my heaviest last off season.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, that's good.
So are you planning on? I'm not really. I'm kind of naive to all this stuff, but like with bodybuilding, is there the opportunity to travel as well? Like, would you be doing like international shows, like in America or wherever?
You can do them shows. So if you were to, let's say, if I was to do it this year, I would have to win a qualifier show. And then when you win a qualifier show, you get invited to do British finals. If you win your class in British finals, you get invited to do like a show what's abroad, which is usually in the States.
Hmm.
Or if I was to plan on competing in the States, basically you can still do a qualifier show. Um, you would have to obviously travel over there. If I won
Hmm.
British
Hmm.
finals in the UK, they basically pay for your travel over there.
Hmm.
That'd be sick. The cool thing about PTing as well is the fact that you could transfer your knowledge and skills to anywhere as well. You could move to America if you wanted and start making a
Yeah, yeah.
business there.
Like even with the online coaching aspect, like I've got two of my clients who are in California at the minute as well. Uh, so yeah, like honestly, you could move around anywhere. It's very good when you can still like, let's say for example, you're going to be on holiday for 2 weeks, you can still technically work for 2 weeks. And online coaching, Neil will know himself, it's not actually that much of a demanding job as long as you're on top of it. It can be demanding if you're behind on it, but as long as you're ahead
Yeah,
of
yeah.
as long as you're ahead of your check-ins, you're ahead of a checklist, you're getting back to client training videos, feedback videos, startup. It's actually not that much of a demanding job as long as you're ahead of it. If you're behind on check-ins and you know you need to be doing like programming for people or like food plans for people and you keep like delaying it and pushing it back and back and back, then it is going to be quite a demanding job. I'm not saying it's going to be as demanding as working in like a fast food like place or in like retail, but I'm just saying
Hmm.
it is going to be quite demanding because people are dependent on you.
Yeah, yeah. It's also what I think as well. It's not harder. It's just more time efficient. But at the same time, you have to be on the ball. Like if a client messages you, you have to reply. Like say they're in the gym, but they're they're unsure of a particular exercise.
No, no.
Like you need to kind of be there to support them.
Well, yeah, 100%. It makes it a little bit more like rough when like you've got clients obviously like in America when the time zones are a bit different.
Yeah, I can
Because
imagine.
if they're training at like in their time, maybe 3 p.m., it could be, you know, what time would it be here? I mean, like the clocks are going to be flipped, you know what I mean? But like I'm always there for them still. Um, it's why I love online coaching. It's why you've got to kind of prove right why you're a different online coach and why you're good for your money. Because I know a lot of online coaching. You probably know a lot of online coaches around the area who will charge crazy amounts of money for a very mediocre service.
Yeah,
And people have got to realize, yes, there is still a cost of living crisis, and you've got to know your own worth, yes, but you've got to put your feet in other people's boots and realize that, like, not even just paying for a coach, but if your coach is telling you to eat the kind of foods that they're trying to tell you, which aren't going to be the cheapest, you've got to find foods what are like very cost efficient, which are going to be in weekly shops, which aren't going to be too money consuming. So I take into account like all stuff like that because I've been in that position, and I would never want to get a coach who's crazy like overpriced for a mediocre service, which I could probably just coach myself. And it's why I like Finn so much, like the current coach I've had for this prep, because I pay for what I pay him. I get like so much out of it, not even just from like a bodybuilding and athlete standpoint. His coaching has helped my own coaching as well, and my own business as well, and how I run things very similar to like in other coach. It's why you've always kind of got to put yourself out there.
Do you
And
feel
not
like
be
it's
too much.
benefited your coaching having Finn?
Yes,
So
100%. Yeah.
you can kind of learn off him and transfer knowledge.
Yeah. So next year I actually have 2 or 3 clients who are going on stage next year where I'll
Right.
be in full coach mode with them, which I'm very much looking forward to because it'll be their first times competing as well. So, and they've got massive potentials for them as well, like in a competing stage as well. So there might be 3 or 4 of them going on stage next year. But I log everything down. So every sort of little change that Finn maybe tells me to do, I'll ask him why. Not to be cheeky or anything, just to be like, why am I doing this? Just
Yeah, of course.
for
It's important to know.
yeah, like I have stuff written down in those notebooks just from my own prep. Obviously, my prep's going to be different to someone else, but from like a data analysis standpoint, I'll write it down just so I'll know what to do for clients next year. Everyone's different in a certain extent, but everything I write down there can be manipulated into a singular person regarding like macros. So although I'm writing stuff down in that book, what's happened for me, it's something I still do with a client, but with just assessing data and maybe changing carbohydrates, fats, proteins, somewhat like that. Just so if I have that written down now, I don't need to be thinking next year being like, shit, I really should have written that down so I remember what to do.
Yeah, yeah.
I already have that all down. So when I get to next year, I'm just like, right, so and so is doing this or that. They're looking like this. Right, I know what to do because I've written it down.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
know it'll be class to take clients through a show. And that's why I'm
Right. I'm back.
yeah, but I
Sorry?
think that's why I'm like really looking forward to like not prepping next year so I can be more in coach mode next year
Mm.
because I know how demanding a prep is. So like hands down to Finn for being in prep and still dealing with like 6 or 7 clients doing shows because like the mental aspect of it, like he has to not only like keep like a quite upfront personality when he's probably feeling like shit as well. But with me being in prep next year, no, like with me being out of prep next year and I can just be full on mode for my clients, then I can just full on be there for them.
Hmm.
So that'll be class. It'll be good.
I've got a few more interesting questions actually that I just thought of.
Go for it.
So the first one, do you feel like in prep mode, like you just mentioned there, does it can it affect the way you're dealing with other aspects of life? Like not just business, but other things.
I think that goes
Uh,
without saying that, doesn't it?
yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
of course, but
It depends how you take it. To be fair, because I know some people who are not like I know some people who have taken prep badly, with they get like outside of the actual bodybuilding aspect of it. It comes naturally though, but like with myself, even I'll dip back into the coaching aspect. That like, yes, I am feeling crap, but should my clients really get affected by that? No, because it's my choice. I've chose to do prep. Why should my clients get the backlash of that when it's my choice? So when it comes to that aspect of it, I kind of just get on with it. I had me bad days, get on with it, just
yeah,
and then just think of like something we're going to look forward to in that day. It does affect family time, I will admit. So like when it comes to like meal timings, like you can't go out for family, like obviously you can't go out for family meals. You can't really go socialize with very many people because when you're at the end of prep, you've got to like prioritize meal timings.
mm,
Like I was saying, so you don't eat too late. Um, but it does affect it, but it just depends how you take it. To be fair, if you can take
yeah,
it with a positive mindset, then it's not going to affect it. But if you're going to take it negatively, then it's your own fault really, and you're letting it affect your life and business in a sense. Because I was still actively trying to find more clients whilst in prep, because I don't see why I shouldn't be. Just because I'm in prep does not mean I'm not going to like prep's not going to pay for my bills. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
why should I stop looking for clients just because I'm in a bodybuilding prep? It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know if this is a personal question or like I don't know how you're gonna take this, but have you ever been much of a big drinker? Like someone who likes going out at the weekend and being like going out on a pisser?
No, honestly, not. You know what the main thing, the actual main bit of drink I was looking forward to after prep was having a drink with my granddad. Like, honestly, that was like, it was the following Monday after the show, and just all through me prep, I was just not like it was like on the back of my mind, but like, oh, I just want to get a piss up, like, come on, and out like that. It was more just like when I finish prep, I'm going to enjoy a good drink with my granddad.
Yeah.
Uh, I couldn't have really cared about going out boozing with me mates, like, and it doesn't really even like spark an interest in me head.
So you don't have
On
FOMO.
you what?
You don't have FOMO from that, like that fear of missing out. Like
No, I couldn't really care. I would much rather have a nice takeaway than going out for drinks.
I
Yeah,
completely
yeah,
agree.
same.
I'd
Quite
rather just
honestly, like I overdone it in like when I was like 17, 18, 19. And it's just like it becomes repetitive. It becomes the exact same. You all nights out become the exact same. Like
Mhm.
you go to a
Let's
club,
do
you
it.
pop about, you get a few drinks.
like
So it's like
I'll go out once in a blue moon with like one of my best mates ever, but like it just ends up being expensive as
yeah,
well. And
exactly, yeah.
if I was ever to go out for a drink, I'd rather just invite people around to the flat,
Yeah,
get some,
yeah.
have a good crack on, like play some games, board games, like shit like that, instead of going out and then you just end up bopping into some like really angry people when you're out, and then
Hmm.
like one thing leads to another, and then it's just not a good environment. And you hear about the amount of things that happens on nights out now, and
Yeah,
it just
yeah, yeah.
kind of doesn't really have an
That's
environment.
a game what put us off.
Yeah, like you hear about like the amount of stuff that happens when you're on nights out, and it just puts you off. I would much rather get myself a takeaway, lob something cool on the telly,
Hmm.
chill
Have
out.
some of the kits from the box.
Yeah, some cat from the box. Get the
Mhm.
chill with the cat and Izzy, and just like
Yeah, yeah,
I sound like such a boomer when I say that, but it just honestly, it's never really like lighting my mood up. Like, oh yes, booze with the boys. Like I couldn't care. Like honestly,
yeah.
really.
Mm, I
I feel
agree.
like most people think the same, but a lot of people are just try to
Scared,
Similar to what you
scared to
used to
say
say on the
that.
last
yeah.
podcast, I think people overhype like the thought of it sounds better than doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, because you always like think, oh yeah, so we'll have pre-drinks at mine, and then we'll go to pub A, and then pub B, and then pub C, and then we'll get something like. To me, it's just like,
I don't even think it's the thought of that, to be fair. I think it's people just want to look cool. They want to be something they're not, and they want to try and like
Yeah.
fit in socially. That's what it is. They want to try and be the cool guy, you know what I mean?
I think relationship statuses matter a lot as well. I feel like a lot more single people enjoy the actual thought of it more than people who are in relationships.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
definitely.
Because I couldn't like even when I was single, right? When I used to go out, I couldn't have like I was just mainly thinking and just having a good time out with like me mates. But like when I'm out with like Izzy now, like when I was out for when was it? It was when me and my best mate Riley went out one time. I was more just thinking, no, I just want to get back home because Izzy doesn't like drinking anyways. So with me, it was just like I couldn't have really cared going out for like any of like attention or whatnot. It was more just like I just wanted to have a good crack on with me, like
Hmm.
crack on with my best mate.
Mm. Exactly.
Yeah, it makes sense. Hi. The other question I had, going back to the coaching, might be a bit out there, like, but what do you think about AI and like ChatGPT, like how it can affect coaching? So like instead of paying for a coach and getting a plan, and go use like these AI things because it is a big thing, but at the same
No, no,
time,
no,
I don't think it
no.
has the human
It's like with
aspect.
anything, isn't it? It's like when people work in factories and then like machines are taking over and
Yeah, yeah.
like that. I think it goes back to what I was saying before. What can you offer in a coaching like standpoint compared to other coaches?
Yeah.
Because I was speaking about this to someone else. Everyone now is a coach. Everyone now thinks they're a qualified online coach. Who, well, I say qualified, you don't necessarily need to be qualified. That's the mad thing about coaching. You don't
Mhm.
legitimately need to be qualified. So anyone who's in somewhat of good shape thinks, oh yeah, I'll online coach some people. Yeah, why not? So I think it was what makes you stand out as a coach, and like having like client testimonials about why you're a good coach and why you're a better coach than him or him. Obviously, price comes into it as well, but if you're a good coach and you charge a decent amount of money, do you have the portfolio to prove that?
Hmm.
If you're a coach who's trying to charge £100+ for coaching a month, but you have no transformations to really prove that you're a good coach, then why are you in any sort of admiral like sense to charge that much when there's another coach charging cheaper who's got X amount of transformations? So I
Yeah.
think it just to prove you're a good coach, then I don't really think AI will really struggle. I think you'll struggle as an online coach at the beginning. And I'd always say to people, coach people for free. And once you've got a couple of transformations on there, then start dip feeding money in, because it's a hard sort of coaching and PT is one of the hardest industries to get in. I'd personally say from like a self-employed aspect,
Yeah.
because you've just got to be different to other PTs, because so many PTs are so basic nowadays though, and they can't even hold clients because they just don't have the PT personality.
Yeah. I think as well, going back to the AI, like it doesn't, the amount of things you'll have to ask it to make it unique to that individual.
Yeah,
So
I
like
know.
it, instead of just saying a chat GPT, oh, write me a fat loss plan. A good coach would be like, all right, why do you want this fat loss plan? Where are
Yeah,
you now? What have you done in the past?
like they need, like the coach itself needs to know like what you do for work,
Yeah.
what your expenditure is. Like an AI computer's not going to ask you questions. Being like, also, have you
Yeah.
been to the gym before? How much water are you drinking a day? Have you had any supplements? Like it just depends what you're given as a coach. It's like a Jeep, like AI can't really ask you for like training feedback. Like
Yeah, that's
yes,
it. Yeah.
it can give you a food plan, but yes, but if you're still training like shit, then an AI doesn't care.
Yeah,
So how
literally.
long do you think it is until the robots take over then?
Oh, yeah, it's judgment day, in it. So I at least say when Arnie dies.
Mm.
That's going to be a turning point in history.
No,
I know, literally.
the day Arnie dies, it's got that's when Judgment Day is coming on. It's when Skynet are coming.
Have you got any other questions or?
Nah, that pretty much covers it. Would you get
I wrote,
Neuralink?
Would I get what?
Do you know what Neuralink is?
No, I've never heard of that. What is that?
Zed, you know what Neuralink is, right?
it's basically they drill a little hole in your skull and then they'll attach a
Oh
few
yeah, is that
wires.
what like I've heard
Elon
of that.
Musk's making it.
Uh,
No,
You
no,
wouldn't?
no, I wouldn't be. I'm old school.
uh,
Nah, nah, I
that
wouldn't either,
just
to be fair.
it just sounds like cancer waiting to happen to me, like a tumor or something's gonna
Honestly,
fall.
Hmm.
I swear I was watching like a Black Mirror episode that was like similar to that. Oh,
I know exactly. I know the one you mean, where like he does that and then he sees like a memory,
yeah,
and
And they
yeah,
start replaying
he
everything.
nicked his lass's memory.
They
yeah.
start
Right
replaying
now,
everything.
Yeah,
no,
That's
but
creepy.
there was another one as well where it was like where it like depending on like how much of a good person you are, you have like a score, and depending
Hmm.
on that
oh, I
score,
remember that one.
yeah, it just reminds us
It's
of
that's
stuff
what
like that.
happens in China, you know. China have that social credit system. It's nuts, like.
Well, I was just thinking about that the other day. I said this to someone the other day, like money's basically just a social credit score, isn't it? Because the harder you work, the more
Yeah,
money you get, and the more well behaved you are, the more money you get as well. So it's kind of
Yeah,
just that's the
but
same kind of thing.
now it's controlled by people, not like controlled by the government.
Yeah,
So the
it's not a
government don't say,
meritocracy.
"Oh, what's good and what's bad." It's down to everyone else. Like we
Yeah.
perceive value, which is what gives. Like, say I went to you, "Oh, I'm going to sell this phone for £1,000." You'd be
Mm.
like, "No, it's not worth that." Yet no one's telling you. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
they're the one making the regulations, so it's like
Perceived
open.
value.
Yeah, it's open to interpretation.
Yeah,
yeah. I would not be a fan of anything like that, mate.
Oh,
Not a
it's
no,
chance.
happening.
definitely not.
Mate,
It's
I
gonna
don't
end
even
up
like.
happening.
I don't even, mate. I don't even have a TV license, man. You think I'm gonna have one of them in my head? Good.
Alex has exposed himself here. First, he
I
has a
know you
box
can.
full of kit.
Mate, I've got the council. I'm gonna have the council at my door.
Right? You got any more questions there?
No,
I wrote down would you ever run a marathon? But I feel like it's a fucking stupid question, to be honest. Like, have you ever thought about doing
Yeah,
long
well,
distance run?
I mean, I'm at the off season now, so I mean, as long as I've got my inhaler,
You got asthma?
Uh,
yeah.
Have you? I never knew that. How much does that affect, like, your bodybuilding then?
Not really. It's as long as like, well, when I my cardio all of prep anyways was just bike, so I would just use
Right.
like recumbent bike on everything, so it never affected it. It just made it better because my cardio was naturally like my cardiovascular health was just getting better anyways. So,
Mhm.
literally my asthma probably got better from it, but like. There's always like the bad end and the shit end of prep because the good part of prep is your cardiovascular gets better, your relationship with food gets better. Obviously, you start looking better, but the other bad part of it is that your hormones are destroyed, your joints are destroyed. You're in a constant headspace of like you could technically say body dysmorphia, and you could technically say like an eating disorder as well. So there's like both ends of the spectrum, but like nah, my asthma never really got affected by it, no.
I was trying to write a question about that, but I couldn't like write it down. Like I couldn't like articulate what I was thinking, but you kind of just like alluded to it a little bit there. Like, do you think that bodybuilding is like a net positive for people, or do you think it makes them like too self-conscious and too like micro focused on like things? Do you think it's overall like healthy or unhealthy? It's
Deep
hard to say,
question
isn't
there.
it? It
Yeah,
is.
'cause I've said sometimes like bodybuilding to a certain extent can be a curse, but on the other side of it, it can also make you into a better person.
Mm.
To me, it's made me like healthy eating, training healthy, being like more active. Because if I wasn't, I'd probably just be overweight, just sitting by my desk doing nothing. But in the
Mm.
other aspect of it, it can be a curse to a certain extent of making yourself feel guilty for eating certain foods,
Yeah,
being
that's
too
what I feel.
critical. But you could technically say that when you start the gym, you're basically signing your mind away to already have body dysmorphia.
Mm.
Yeah, but
To a
that's
certain
like the dedication of it. Like you're dedicated, you look mint, like you're sharp, you're still healthy, you still know what you're doing. So like it
It's always
doesn't
that
matter,
like
I
the body
suppose, does
dysmorphia will always be there, but I think it's always going to be. It's always the pros are always going to outweigh the cons.
it?
But if bodybuilding to a certain extent, you've just always got to have your why on each
Mm.
stage.
Yeah,
So it's like from me transitioning from prep to off season now, it's all about changing my why from being right. I've got to get as shredded as I can so I can win the show to my why being like I'm doing this because I want to put on as much tissue as possible for 2025. It's just don't get stuck in your own head because a lot of bodybuilders do get stuck in their own head, and I do it. I still do it to this day. Sometimes I look at myself and I don't. I hate the way I look at the minute, but that's just because I'm transitioning from being as shredded as I can to changing my mindset. But that mindset doesn't change overnight. It's a constant work and battle with yourself. So yes, you are self-critical on yourself, but it's like I said, it's always about finding your why and
Mm.
realizing why you're changing and what you're doing it for.
yeah, yeah,
I
definitely.
think part of the issue is as well that like people have this expectation nowadays where like they feel like everything has to be 100% perfect. But
Yeah, and
like,
social media doesn't help with that when they see all these like shredded 18-year-olds who say they're natural when they're clearly not,
Mm.
and they're showing this kind of persona that like, oh, be shredded, just jump on gear, this, what, that, the other. And then you see some people who are like 18 jumping on loads of gear who have never done a bodybuilding competition in their life and then end up like losing their life so young because they've destroyed their heart, their
endocrine
blood.
system.
No,
Yeah. That's why with someone like myself, I've done 2 natural seasons, been training now since I was 17. So that's yeah. So like nearly 5 years worth of training. It's not like I hopped on gear in the first year of training. I allowed myself to get as much as I can without even needing to think about that. And
yeah,
I never really let like social media determine my mindset. I use it as motivation from like other bodybuilders, but I never really see these team bodybuilders as motivation because I know they're just full of shit.
Mm.
mm.
Have you ever heard of Paul
I
Delay?
Paul who?
Paul Delay or Dillette. I don't know how you say it.
Oh, Paul Dillette. Like he was an unbelievable bodybuilder back in the 90s, and then when he stopped competing, he let himself go madly.
Oh, I've seen this comparison picture where like it's after like he's deflated like fucking he's got like a Homer Simpson body and then
Yeah. Like Paul
beforehand he's like
Dillette.
fucking massive.
Honestly, if you can find a photo after like when this is
I'll get
done,
one.
Paul Dillette was like one of the. He was an amazing bodybuilder. He used to compete up against Dorian Yates, one of my
Just share
favorite
my
bodybuilders.
screen. I'll try and find it.
I do it.
He,
Hold
made,
on.
he was like one of the tallest bodybuilders like on the Olympia stage because most like open bodybuilders in the Mr. Olympia are always under 6 foot. So finding a Mr. Olympia who was like competing who was over 6 foot was actually quite rare.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's just loading up.
Right. What was it? Paul
Okay.
Dillette.
Yeah,
Aye.
normal Paul and then Dillet.
That one. Canadian bodybuilder.
Yeah, like look at the photos of him, man. He looks.
I see. It's unbelievable.
Like so that was yeah.
This one.
So look, oh yeah.
Fucking hell.
Went from looking that good to mate. It looks photoshopped, doesn't it?
Ah, it does. Do you remember the synthol pictures that I was sending you? Where like the injected synthol that had massive chest but then skinny arms.
Yeah, like mate,
Like
honestly, like that photo doesn't do him justice. But he had such a small waist as well.
yeah.
He looked crazy good. But he let himself go just after competing. I don't even know why either, but like it's like a massive difference between, and God knows like what he was going through mentally.
That's what I was just thinking there. Like I wonder how he is now.
Well,
Doing
there's a
that.
lot of bodybuilders who like don't really cope much after prep.
Yeah.
And like Dorian Yates struggled after prep. That's what I'm saying. As long as you have your why, you always got to have a why.
How
I
do I
reckon
stop skip
not
shit?
not even just in bodybuilding. I think just in general, in fitness, as long as you've got your why, I think you're okay.
Nice.
I
It's
don't
a
know how I get
legendary
back to
physique,
the
though,
main
isn't it?
screen. Oh no. I need to get better with all this fucking computer jargon.
You just let me do it next time. I'll be able to do it more like
Right,
quickly
right.
than that. But
Spot on. I gotta ask the question.
Which one?
Same one you asked Jack. He
I
won't
don't
know
know.
because the audio was cut off.
I
You
don't know
know, man.
which one I asked him.
The
You asked
very last question.
what did Jeffrey Epstein kill himself?
Yeah.
Oh, it was an inside job.
Definitely.
I definitely think it was like
Do you,
we should change the name of the Jeffrey Epstein show.
Yeah,
keep that as the
I
same question to ask at the end each time.
imagine like new people coming on the podcast saying you have been invited to the Jeffrey Epstein show.
maybe we could call it like Epstein Island or something. Or like
Epstein Island.
Live at Epstein Island.
the Island Boys.
Oh man. But I
Um,
definitely don't think he did.
Another question I wrote down as well is like, if you could choose like an ideal scenario with training, would you rather train in a gym which is full, not full, but like with people in it, or just completely on your own in silence?
I honestly like a gym with people in it. I like an atmosphere.
Hmm.
Like I like old school gyms, but old school gyms that have people in them who have the like-minded like mindset like myself.
Yeah.
I'd love because there's not that many gyms around like the northeast area where it's an old well, to be fair, there's no really old school gyms around the northeast area who have the mindset of competing. There's some old school gyms around here, but
What
like
about Atlas?
Morgan's.
Atlas is good, but, like they don't really have like competitive people in there. They just have like people who will just go train, the what's the word like the regulars,
Mm.
but like no one who's like, oh yeah, so I've got this show next year or this year. Like there's not that many competing people there, which would be cool to have because then when you train with people like that, they're training with the mindset of competing. And Neil know himself, like when you train and you've got a goal in mind, it's there's that motivation there. So
Yeah.
when I have the motivation of training because I've got a competition, then there's just more motivation there.
Hmm.
Yeah. And when everyone around you is thinking the same thing, has the same goal, You're kind of just
Yeah,
bouncing off each other. Aye. I know what you mean.
But like people who are just normally training, just to wait for the sake of training, I mean, they don't really have like the mindset to keep pushing you. But if someone's like, right, I'm not necessarily someone who has to compete though, but someone who's just there for you, being like, right, you've got this competition, we've got to train like fuck, like the train has to be like perfect. But like, I don't really want to know what's going on and what you're having for tea tonight, and like what so and so said at work today. I just want to
Mhm.
get in the gym, train as hard as we can, go home, and then we can speak about whatever you want to. Then it's why I like training with Izzy, because me and Izzy don't really like speak about any of that. We just get in, we train. Honestly, like I probably train for like an hour. No, I don't do this 2 or 3 hour malarkey anymore. I probably the 7 exercises, probably an hour and 10, and then go
Yeah.
home.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of like bodybuilders tend to like it almost seems like a controversial statement to say, but they'll be like, oh, you're meant to train for, or people always say, oh, you should train for 2 hours and blah blah blah, but I only train for half an hour. Like Dorian Yates said it, I think, and
Yeah. Well,
there's a few.
Arnold was one of the other few people who used to be like, "Oh, I used to train for 4 to 5 hours a day." You don't.
Fucking hell.
That's what he used to say. Like, you don't need to do that. And then there was a bodybuilder who Dorian Yates learned from, and he was a bodybuilder called Mike Mensa, who
Oh,
said you don't need to train for that long. As long as you train have the most optimal amount of recovery, you don't need to train every single day at all.
mm,
Yeah. I think having a rest day is important, like,
uh,
I
or
think
even
having
an active rest day.
what is this cat doing? Can you get out? No, yeah,
Shows you cat.
he's right.
he's kitted out his
Oh.
brains, man.
And I was,
It's near the cat box.
what are you doing?
Is it going to scratch you, like,
Can you
if
get
you're
off?
pulling on your top? I was
Get
in
off!
Spain not long ago. One of my first, like, first in a while experiences with a cat. My uncle Pablo has a cat called Negro.
He's
Seven.
fucking stuck.
Will you let go?
I think you have to get him off. He's not going to be able to get off.
Stop pulling us in.
Stronger than you, Alex.
Oh, there we go.
But my uncle's cat's called Negro, but Negro just means black in Spanish, so it's not really controversial. But I didn't. It kept coming up to us and like cuddling us and stuff, and I'd go to stroke it, and it just like look at us like try to freak out. Like that was
Oh, man, cats are so weird, man. He's a right
yeah.
freak. Like he's an absolute idiot, man.
But as well with cats, like you can just let a cat roam outside. They just do what they want. They just run around outside. A dog, like
But
when you
honestly,
take
I
them out, you
don't
put them on a lead and everything. You don't really trust it. Or just like you don't just let it out. And just in
like
for it to know to come back.
he's not going to be an outdoor cat because there's too many
Right.
cats what get run over and that. And he's happy
Aye.
just being a house cat, but like we haven't got his balls off, so he's just a wanker at the minute. Like,
Seems like a lovely cat.
yeah, he's lovely.
Aye.
He's called
It's called what?
7.
7.
The number 7, aye.
Why 7?
Lucky number.
Lucky number. Fair play.
What are you doing? Good podcast though, boys. Does 7
Aye.
think Epstein was killed?
Ran away. It doesn't want to answer.
I know he doesn't
He knows
care.
something. He knows
He
something.
he wants to be in the cat box. That's what.
He's just trying to get screen time.
I was trying to get stream time.
I might just get him high on a bunch of catnip, just so he packs in.
I wrote down a question as well, just because the name of the podcast, but I don't know if it's silly or not. I wrote, what does flow state mean to you, and is it important?
Oh, flow state. No, I was actually going to ask you this. What does it mean? Like, what?
So, have you probably get it in training. You ever got that feeling of like you're doing something, right? And your perception of time completely goes away. You're just focused on what you're doing. You're not thinking about like, oh, I wonder what show I'm going to watch tonight, or like you're not thinking about any personal stuff. You're not really thinking about anything other than what you're doing.
It's like tunnel vision, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So you're in the state of like you're just doing that. Or the perception of time goes away. You don't really completely focus on the task at hand. You're just like you do it better than you've ever done it before.
Yeah.
Kind of like, do you know Limitless?
Yeah.
Yeah, when he takes NZT and he's just in the state, he just does it. He actually says in the movie when he takes it, I'm not. Oh, what was it? What did he say? He's like, I wasn't thinking about what to do. I just knew what to do, and I done it.
Hmm.
He says that at the start. It's kind of like that.
To me, anyway, personally, I feel like flow state's more like a honest expression of like yourself. Like if you can honestly kind of just you don't have to second guess things like you're doing because you know that it's just like 100% genuine. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have to think about it. You just do it.
So
It's like instinct, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
I think it's important to like be like 100% honest with yourself though. Like don't
Mm.
lie to yourself and just live honestly. That's
Yeah,
what it
yeah,
is
yeah,
to me.
yeah. Definitely.
But
All right.
and also like flow means like jujitsu. Like when you're flowing in jujitsu, it's kind of like when you're not like going 100%. You're just kind of like rolling, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you could link it to fucking loads of things, man.
Yeah.
Again, I was reading a book about sports psychology. It's like, it kind of has to do with the flow state, but it's an anxiety level. So if you have really a low level of anxiety, like completely non-existent, with your performance will be low.
Mm,
If you have really high anxiety, again, your performance will be low. But there's
mm,
a kind of loop. So like
mhm.
there's a perfect point where it's like you're just at the right anxiety where you to make you do something.
Yeah, the
Kind of like
optimal
motivation.
achieving.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So not anxiety in the sense of like, oh, I'm worried. Oh, I don't know what's gonna happen, but awareness sort of thing. So it's not
mhm,
like
Yeah.
you're not caring where you're at the low end of the anxiety, but you're not like, oh shit, like all over the place.
mm.
There's like a perfect balance right in the middle. It kind of goes like a loop where
Yeah,
your best performance will be when you have that optimal level of anxiety.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's why some people function better with cannabis and some people don't because
Mm,
some people they're naturally at a lower level of anxiety, and then when they smoke cannabis or ingest it in some kind of way, then it pushes them forward into that middle zone. But then if
yeah,
people already live in that middle zone and then they have it and it takes them to the high end, then it makes them less
could be.
optimal.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think what I mean by anxiety, I think there is a difference between like anxiety and thought and physical anxiety. Like when you feel
I don't
physically
think so.
anxious, do you not think?
No, I think it all comes from your brain. I don't think when you're
Yeah,
training in the gym, it's your body that's training. I think it's just your brain. Like I think you just like 100%. It's literally just your
I
mind,
suppose
really.
everything comes from your brain. Yeah, I know what you
Like
mean.
when you're doing a leg extension, that's because your brain's sending a signal to your leg to extend. It's all mental. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That's why when people say like meatheads and shit like that, it's stupid because it all comes from your brain. It's all mental capacity in a certain way. Like fair enough, they're not fucking sitting there doing algebra, but they're pushing the brain in a certain way. You know what I mean?
Imagine that doing algebra, you're sitting on a leg extension, your rest time,
You get
putting
your
away.
fucking get your calculator out.
I play chess sometimes when I'm on the treadmill, like if I'm
Yeah,
doing like an
that is
incline walk as well, I'm
mad.
sat there playing chess.
Maybe we should make a gym where like there's leg extensions on two sides of a chessboard, and then you sit and you just do like exercise.
Like fucking
Ah, that'd
cross,
be cool.
like a chalkboard on the side of it.
Aye, or maybe
Doing
like
maths and that.
preacher curl thing, and then in the middle or like on the side there's a chessboard, and you just take turns.
That would be a good way
Multifunctional
to
gym.
study, I think.
What training?
Mate,
No, like,
imagine how long it would be if you went to someone or how many sets you got left. Fucking hell.
it depends. Let's just figure out this equation.
Let us do the sum first.
That would be funny, that, like. Right? Any final thoughts?
No, I think I've pretty much got my whole load up there. Like,
Yeah.
got the
I
Jeffrey.
suppose we've got the Jeffrey Epstein question in there, like.
Yeah, we got the important one out the way.
Very
Alex?
happy days.
No, that is all for me.
Yeah.
Like, good chat on. Good chat
Mm.
on.
What's your plans for the rest of the day?
Well, got some small online coaching work to do,
Mm.
and then I'm on shift at the gym later, and then I was
Have some
mainly
kept from your box.
Yeah, I might, I'll get some from the bag in the box, like.
Hmm,
Sounds
nice.
good.
No, very good. I appreciate you coming on anyway.
Ah, he's doing it again.
And
No,
seven.
no, that's all good. Like buzzing to have for you to have us on.
Hmm,
Good having
definitely.
you.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah. Been a good chat. All right, boys.